Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cooper, and today we're joined by some familiar faces. We'll start with the main man himself, Dave. How's it going, mate?
Very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I had a good weekend. Finn, how you doing, son?
Yeah, all good, thank you too.
Let's not discuss this. Maybe later in the pod. George, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, honestly, top of the world. We've got a lot. We've got lots to get through on this podcast. We're going to be looking back at Bournemouth versus Wolves. Wolves finally getting 3 points from Wolves versus Southampton. We'll be previewing the Liverpool game. We'll be talking about Diego Costa and, of course, taking some of your questions. But let's start with the Bournemouth game first, Dave. Unchanged from the Newcastle game. I don't know about you, mate, but I thought that was very odd.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise. I think we all expected after they had been smashed by Liverpool, go a bit more attacking, try and get at them a bit more. I think we'd already had the news about Scott Parker sacking when we did the podcast last week as well. So I think we all expected some changes, try and get some more energy in the squad. And yeah, when we started unchanged, I was surprised. Our first 11 is still a strong side, a really strong side, and should be doing better in front of goal than we have been doing. But it was still the same old sort of stuff, wasn't it? It was still very passive, still not enough hunger to try and get in front of goal and test the goalkeeper. And overall, we made it fairly easy for Bournemouth, who, would have been, I think in the end, with how they finished the game, would have been more than happy to take a point out of the game. That's exactly what they got.
Yeah, Dave mentioned the word passive there, Finn. Is that how you would describe the game?
100%, yeah. It was the first one that I'd watched on TV this season. I don't know whether, it was, because you don't feel as involved because you're watching it on TV, you're not there. But it just, I think it times it by 10 how boring it was. And then you're hearing the discontent from that left corner from the microphones of how the Wolves fans as well. It was, as Dave said, you didn't expect the team to be the same, but I think everyone expected what happened. The only thing that was missing was Solanke to score off his arse or whatever in 90+1. You knew something like that was going to happen. Probably 0-0 was the best case scenario because after that 9-0, we were never going to score, never, and it was always going to go like that. But yeah, I think when we've used the 4-2-3-1 against other teams, you'd think you'd be using it against the promoted sides, especially one that is looking weak at the back. So it was disappointing not to see that. And at the bare minimum, I think, as we'll come on to with Southampton, I think if you're going to play that 3 o'clock from midfield, Aït-Nouri's got to be involved somewhere at the back because you miss a lot of that sort of creativity and you can at least get a little bit from there. And he did well when he came on. But yeah, passive is probably the best way to sum it up. So frustrating.
Sum the game up in 3 words, Finn.
It wasn't a roller coaster, mate.
George, it was very safe, wasn't it? It was very side to side, and they just played the ball like an arc in front of their front line. Weren't playing vertically. What was the issue with it, mate? What can you pinpoint at the problem? Why we couldn't penetrate their back line?
I don't think it was anything that Bournemouth was specifically doing to stop us doing it either. I feel like we got very comfortable in the game, got into a very comfortable tempo, and we were passing the ball around for vanity, really. I know we had 70% possession, but we weren't hurting them at any point. And like I said before, it's we weren't playing between the lines. We weren't picking up pockets of space. Not until Podence came on, actually. And yeah, it was just a real weird performance, and not one that sort of surprised me, following Wolves for so many years. But you just know when a team gets slapped 9, and Wolves are next, you just know what's going to happen. It's usually 0-0 or, like Finn said, Solanke getting one off his arse. But it didn't happen, and there's probably a lot of talking points of the game and why we didn't score. Yeah,
I mean, your fans summed it up. I caught it the day later, and we've had quite a few comments on it. I was in tears. I was in tears the night before from watching the game. Then you did cheer me up. I know you referred to it as utter wank, which is perfectly put. But Raul Jimenez, Dave, we don't like putting the spotlight on players and tearing strips off them, but it was awful. From it's one of the worst games I've seen him play in a Wolves shirt.
Yeah, I pinpointed him and Neto as 2 players at halftime that I thought were just lacking confidence. A few people disagreed with me on Neto, but I think we did all agree on Raul Jimenez, and obviously we'll come on to talk about the team selection for Saturday as well. But it wasn't great. There were people sort of backing Jimenez because obviously a lot of the stick went on to Bruno Lage after the game. And people were saying, still blaming Lage for it. There was people backing Jimenez, but there were just moments in the game. I think it was Nunes who picks up some great positions, by the way. I think we've spotted that a lot more, one in the Bournemouth game, but in the Southampton game as well. But I think he got himself in a position on the right-hand side where he whips it in. And it's a great ball. And Jimenez is just static and stood behind like the third defender. For a confident striker or a striker which is, on top of his game, he's just going to peel off that defender and pick up the ball, and it's an easy finish for him. But it is just that confidence thing at the moment. It's a real concern for Wolves. And, from a player, I think it's no secret that the injury hasn't helped him. But for a player that was just on top of the world 2 or 3 years ago to this now, it's really disappointing. I'm hoping that he regains his form. I'm hoping that he still scores some goals. And I'm hoping that despite our plan A for some competition, our plan B, who's likely to come in this week, is going to offer him an equal amount of competition. But yeah, it's not looking good for Raul at the minute, unfortunately.
It's not. I feel he squandered a really good chance, didn't he, as well? That was, Raul of old would have put that away quite easily. He put a chance away like that against Everton last season. We dinked it over the keeper
the one where he put just wide. Yeah, that was a stinker one.
Yeah, well, I think in that Everton game, to be fair, he tried that finish twice, and once it had the Bournemouth result, and then once it ended up in the net. So, I mean, I'll defend him to the hills, and I can defend maybe missing a one-on-one, but exactly what Dave was saying, you can't defend things like him not even attacking the ball when it comes across. Like, it's bread and butter for a goalkeeper. You see, like, as much as I've criticised Haaland for only scoring from 2 yards out, you've also got to be there. So when Raul isn't doing that, you can't defend that. And I just think he looks a bit, even like in the tunnel coming out, he looks a bit distant, like he's not really there. Like, I don't know what it is. And it's easy to say, oh, it's all changed since the injury. But yeah, he's not the same, clearly. And it is sad. And you'd like to say friendly competition's coming in, but it's not going to be. It's a very unfriendly competition. So we'll see who gets the nod.
One thing I've noticed as well, and it's been definitely since the injury, is that his aggression and probably almost temperament is completely different. I see him whinging a lot more on the pitch, a lot more than we used to see. Just daft, stupid stuff. Like, obviously, we saw the 2 red cards last year. I think he was unfortunate against Leeds, but the Man City one was just completely, just pure stupidity. And then against Newcastle last week, where he was just whining and whinging just about not getting the ball in a couple of certain situations. I understand, you want things to go well, you want things to happen, but it's just almost as if he's looking at the game glass half empty rather than glass half full at the minute. And I think when you're a striker, when you're being relied on to score goals and you're just looking at the game with a negative approach, it's never going to bode well.
No, it isn't. And it's easy to say because we know what's happened. That it's like, oh, it's definitely cognitive or something, because he looks like he's playing with lag. Well, that's the only way I can describe it. It's like Finn on the podcast when he's getting his earpiece, reporting live.
Shoot Ralph.
Yeah,
it's gone past
Finn on Pro Clubs.
but even when he's playing with his back towards goal, it's like it looks like he thinks he's got miles of space and all the time in the world, but. I mean, obviously, the Kalajdzic has come in and, of course, had that horrific injury, which is just, peak Wolves. But the positive to take from the game, Jord, Pedro, when he came on, looked better, but it also gave us that option to play vertically, which, if you'd have watched the first 10 minutes, I think we were all saying we need to get someone on the pitch who can just play in that half space in front of the midfield.
Yeah, because you could tell that the space was there to exploit. And when Pedence came on, he started playing in between sort of, I can't remember if they were on the pitch this point, but Cook and Lerma, and just picking up loads of pockets of space. And that's exactly what we've been missing. And I feel like there's a time for 4-3-3 and there's a time for 4-2-3-1. I think you've got to be fluid with it. And that's the one thing about Wolves over the last few years, is that it's do plan A really well. If it doesn't work, swap the person out and just carry on. And it changed a little bit. Aitner came on as well, and that changed a little bit because he was a bit more direct than Johnny was, trying to attack Adam Smith, who is an awful fullback. So yeah, it was like I say, it was watching that game and like I say the fans react. I still can't tell you now what I said. It was just 5 minutes of just I don't know. I wasn't there. Just letting it all out. But it was just ominous. It's like the signs are so ominous. Like they were there for the taking, and yeah, with the fact of not winning before Bournemouth added that pressure on that we needed to. It was a must win, or at least being dubbed as that, and then to not get that win, it had put a lot of pressure on Southampton.
Big shout out to Collins and Kilman, though. I didn't have much to do, Dave, but I thought they were excellent, and it's looking, touch wood, like it's got the hallmarks of a fantastic centre half partnership. Best in the league.
On paper at the moment it is the best in the league, and we'll talk about Saturday a little bit more shortly, but they were phenomenal then again. So yeah, they're looking good. I think I've said it a number of times. I came into the season excited about a back four, but also worried that it was going to take time to sort of bed into this system, seeing as we played in the back five with a back five for so long. So yeah, it's good, and I think the good thing for us from an England point of view with Max Kilman, he's almost proved that he could play in a back four and he could play in a back five now as well. Yeah. And with the World Cup coming up, even internationals coming up soon, I think that's going to be a massive plus for Gareth Southgate as well, and he's left-footed.
Well, who else is left-footed in the England squad? Michael King,
who's not going to get. Is Tomori, I think, possibly.
Yeah, he doesn't like Tomori though, does he? For some reason,
I don't think he's been fantastic either this year.
No, sure. He's definitely been with a shout. But those pair looking great. Before we move on to Southampton game, we talk about, and I think Finn mentioned it, or Dave mentioned it a little bit earlier, the fact that the Wolves fans seem to be not turning, but it was a little bit uncomfortable, wasn't it? They were singing Bruno make a change and or make a sub, whatever it was. Finn, it's not great, is it? Like 4 games into the season, fans singing that, and also his post-match press conference telling fans how to feel and what to feel, which never is a good idea.
Yeah, there was the ones I collected up. There was Bruno make a sub, then there was the usual Adama Traore attack, which always just sounds horrendous. Yeah. It's so cringy, that one, and the usual get into him. But no, yeah, it's not. But I think the window was still open with Bournemouth, wasn't it? Because he was just trying to get things a bit more optimistic. The players could come in, fans be patient, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't read into that too much. But no, yeah, it's a very short fuse. And then to hear reports of at the end, Bruno went straight down the tunnel, but the players that did go over seemed to receive the brunt of the frustration as well. A couple of players that braved it. So it's not a great look for a few games in, but at that point, we hadn't won a game. On paper, we had quite an easy run the start of the season. That's why it's cool that we can say Kilman and Collins best defensive partnership now until we go into Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea. But no, yeah, I think it's frustration. It's just, I think we'd be talking different now if we hadn't won against Southampton, if Che Adams knew how to head a ball properly. But yeah, we're thankfully talking about 4 points in 2 games, and it'll all flip now. We're very fickle people. That's fine.
I think if the Bournemouth results say the same and we drew with Southampton, I think a good 50% of us would be saying he's got to go. Yeah. Dave being 25% of that, but
no one.
Oh, Mr. Positive. But absolute dog shit performance. So let's move on and move on to the Wolves versus Southampton game. Coming into this one, Dave, I felt confident we weren't going to that we were going to win, but I felt confident that we weren't going to play well either. I don't know how you felt coming into it.
Yeah, we've had good form against Southampton ever since we've been back promoted into the Premier League, and they just picked up a good win against Chelsea as well. So I knew it wasn't going to be an easy game. But I don't know. I had a good feeling. I thought, we all sort of felt positive, but at the same time, we thought if Wolves don't start well here, we know how quickly Molineux could change. It can get toxic. And I think Bruno Lage knew he needed to win as well. I don't necessarily think he would have been sacked if we lost on Saturday, because I think we all would have been stupid to do it and sort of try and introduce a manager ahead of 2 difficult games coming up. But there would have obviously been a lot of pressure on him, and I think a lot of that pressure, and there's a huge sigh of relief obviously when the final whistle went on Saturday. But there were a lot of positives from the performance, and yeah, I'm really glad that we managed to get the 3 points against a good solid team. Plenty of talented young players in that Southampton squad at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, if they can keep hold of some of their players, which they probably won't, they're going to have a really talented squad in the next few years. And Chelsea bid for Lavia, didn't they?
That was crazy. That
on
was
the last day,
crazy.
despite just signing from Man City.
Yeah.
George, the big man got his start, chucked in at the deep end. Sasa Kalajdzic. We know, of course, what's happened since, but what were your impressions of him from the first 45 minutes? I know I come downstairs at 40 minutes and a few blokes were saying he's an absolute pony, he's a cart horse, which, each to their own.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Because, not to disrespect Finnear, a footballer that size can look a bit awkward. Like with the crouch thing, it's like it's quite hard to look. So like, limbs.
Even in everyday life, I hate the way.
Well, there you go. I don't know about that thing. But yeah, a lot of football pitch, it can just always look a little bit awkward. And that's just for the sheer size of him. But one thing I was impressed with him was he was actually quicker than I thought he would be. And I thought he'd have a turning circle of a tank. But he was actually quite nimble on his feet. And you know what? I actually watched the goal back. And you know what? I mean, he's actually got up with Pedence with an ACL, which is mental for the tapping. Yeah. So he's actually, he looked quite bright. I think it's really harsh to throw him under the bus. But there's a lot of Wolves fans that are so Stockholm syndrome to just, we love Raul. Raul's number 9. He's been great. Like they just don't want to see any change there. And it's Raul's been off the boil for a while now, at least 12 months. And I'm glad he got a start, because I know obviously it didn't end in great circumstances, but I hope it's give Raul a bit of a rocket, basically, because I think he needed one.
Well, he was injured in the warm-up, wasn't he? Bruno put it down to chronic fatigue, which is strange, because surely if you got chronic fatigue, you wouldn't even be on the subs bench, because I've never had it, but I'd imagine it feels like you've been hit by a train. But yeah, it's a real. We'll talk about the injury now, but it's a real stinker, isn't it, Finn? I've seen people blame the club as well, but I don't know how you can blame the club. Like as people know, I had the same injury about 2 years ago, and I asked the physio, I was like, "What causes it?" And he's like, "Well, you're overweight, so that doesn't help. Obviously, Sasha isn't. Sasha's obviously not overweight." And he said, like, if you're not fit, if you've not warmed up properly, and if your body's stressed, you got more chance of injuring yourself. But he's like, it can just be a freak accident. So so it's a real sickener, isn't it?
Yeah, and when people are saying, "Oh, we shouldn't have started him," when there's literal video evidence of us saying start him in the deadline day thing, I don't think we can really criticize that, because I'd have done the same thing. But it is classic Wolves. To be fair, I think Bruno said both will be back by next week. One was fatigue and one will be fine. And then it's now Rouse with his groin, was it, or something? And the other one's out for a year, or however long it's going to be out for the season, possibly. So he got neither right. Yeah.
This is the same man that said Leander Dendoncker is going to stay on deadline day as well, by the way.
Yeah, so the trust clearly isn't there, so he's got to go for me. And no, but it's
so is that David who said that, or was it Finn?
Yeah. But no, I mean, he had an injury record. We did note it, but I mean, it would have been classic Wolves if he'd have broke his finger and was out for a week. You know what I mean? But not an ACL, like a season-ending injury. It's just you couldn't write it, and it's really tricky for him. You even see like Stuttgart tweeting about it as well. It's just sad all round, but I think it is just one of those freak ones. But when he goes down off the ball, and we were with a Southampton fan, one of my dad's friends, and when they don't roll around, like he wasn't going off, for God's sake, he was going, "Oh, he's seriously hurt there." When he's just lay still, you knew something was wrong. So I was dead surprised to hear, "Oh, he'll be back next week." And yeah, it turns out it wasn't great.
Because when it happened, like he lay down and obviously played until half time, and everyone, I was like, it's probably just a dead leg, because it was like a coming together, wasn't it? But like he was holding like the top of his like thigh, and I was like, it's probably just a dead leg. But Dave, it's just typical Wolves, isn't it? Yeah, finally try and find someone who can plug the gap up front, and now we've got an even bigger gap.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Like you said, there were people even in the YouTube comments on the reaction saying that how crappy he was, and I thought, how can you judge it after seeing him probably fit for half an hour? Yeah, and, 45 minutes. I actually thought he was all right. I thought his link-up play was good. And like George said, he got himself about. He pressed really well, I thought. You know, he pressed nice and high. And arguably, actually, for the goal, I don't know what if Pedence meant his finish, it was
Absolutely
just
not.
pure
Yeah.
class. I think he's trying to square it back to
Yeah.
Sasha,
Yeah.
who stood right next to him. And that would have been great, you know, for him to tap it in. But, you know, it's a real shame. And, you know, we're going to be talking about his potential replacement later on. But I was really excited to see him because it was something completely different. Not many teams, if any teams in the Premier League, have got a player like that in the front line. So I was really intrigued to see how he got on. And, you know, he got himself in some great positions. You know, we started to cross it in a little bit more. We started to be a bit more direct. So yeah, real shame. And I'm hoping, obviously we haven't got the exact time frame, but I'm hoping it's not really serious. But at the moment, it looks unlikely. We might not even see him till next year now, unfortunately. Next season, rather.
Well, like a couple of times he attacked the front post, and I went back downstairs to the concourse and asked the kiosk bloke, I was like, what percentage is his beer? Because I've just seen one of our forwards attack the front post. So I must be absolutely bad here.
No, his movement off the ball was great. And, you know, I thought it was just, like I said, it's somebody that's, you know, he hadn't scored so far in the Bundesliga, but he'd played 3 games, got 3 assists. You know, he was amongst the goals, you know, amongst the goal contributions. But going back to what you said about the injury, I've seen plenty of people blaming the club for it, you know, as well, saying we've had X amount of ACL injuries in X amount of years. This is ridiculous. So, well, the Chiquinho one, how is it the club's fault that he's just been 2-footed in a pre-season friendly?
Well, we've seen the picture. Well,
yeah. Well,
Dave dropped the bollock and posted a picture.
Yeah, but there's lots like that. You know, there are something that happened in training. Fair enough, like the Johnny one, and that happened to him twice. But you know, there are some that is just purely, you know, accidental and impacting.
Zyro's was horrible, wasn't it?
Zyro's a dreadful tackle. So I mean, it's just unfortunate. And you say, you know, the first year or first 2 years under Nuno, the fitness levels were like unbelievable. So
people saying like, how's he passed the medical? But medical's purely a risk assessment.
Yeah,
you know, he's spending X amount of money. Is it calculated risk? And you know, I think he did a crucial injury before, yeah. But it's one of those, like, I'll come back to it. Like, I've asked my physio, like, am I more likely to do it again? He's like, not really. It's like, if you do it again, you're just unlucky. So if he's doing the rehab properly, he'll be absolutely fine. But it's such a psychologically, it's a horrible injury because it's like 8 months of like just rebuilding your leg muscles and getting the ligament used to the knee. So he's not going to be back on grass for at least 6 months if it's a complete rupture. But they haven't updated yet, have they? They just said it's an ACL injury. They haven't.
I don't think they'll be able to do an MRI with it yet, will they? Because the swelling will be too. I reckon it'll take.
I read today he's having surgery this week. A German report, I think, said 6 months.
It's
initial swelling to go down, don't they, to actually understand what's gone on. So yeah, it's just like I say, it's just a shame it's happened.
Yeah, welcome back to Talking Physios. I'm your host, mate. But with that injury though, if it is a rupture, then they can't put it back together. They have to take a graft from the hamstring and use that as a new ligament. It's the same as what I've done. Like the scars are, it's a big job, but we wish him a speedy recovery. It's such bad luck for the lad, and hopefully he comes back and is, you know, as involved. But we're probably going to be looking at next season now. Probably maybe the same with Chiquinho, like late this season, if not back in pre-season. But let's talk about the goal. Nunes instrumental in the build-up. I was listening to the Express and Star, actually, their post-match review, Judah and Liam Keane, obviously friends of the pod, and they said that, you know, they didn't think Nunes looked great. I thought he looked like a Rolls Royce out there, but Dave, he was heavily involved in the goal, and it's nice to see a goal that doesn't rely on a piece of individual brilliance, a well-worked team goal.
Yeah, it was really well worked, and we've seen Nunes pick up these positions time and time again. And it's a great ball across the box to Pedence. And like we've already said, did he mean it? Did he not? You know, if he meant it, it's a great finish. But I'm not sure what he was trying to do, really. But we've seen it. Yeah, I thought Nunes, again, this is what I said on my reaction. His ball retention is phenomenal. Like, you could have 2-3 players around him. He'll still find a way out of the space. And the same against Newcastle, Bournemouth. I think every like big attack, counter attack was him starting the counter attack, driving the ball forward. The one thing he needs to improve is just that final decision making, whether that be wait or pass or the correct pass. But yeah, I thought he was great. People said it on the Fans React. People in the comment section, there were some that didn't agree. But yeah, I thought he was great, and it's a great ball for the goal as well. Phenomenal cross.
One thing I've noticed with him is he uses his body excellently in terms of shielding the ball. And that's something that Dan Butler said on the recruitment podcast that we did with him. He said that he uses his body really well. But Finn, did Pedence mean that finish?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, at half time where they show like every angle of it because there was not many highlights from the game, so they literally showed everything.
To pull it back.
Yeah. But you also see as well, to be fair, you see Nunes absolutely scream for the ball off Neves to come down the right. So yeah, he was very instrumental in the goal. But no, he doesn't mean it at all. And it would, to be fair, Kalajdzic, would that have been the first player to ever score with a torn ACL if he had just played it across? But but it was if Messi had done it, people might, or like Mesut Ozil would do that thing where he like passes the ball into the ground and it'd dink over, but he didn't mean it whatsoever. I'd love to give him the credit, but nah.
There's got to be some players like down in history of like played on with an ACL, like when George's era when he was watching Wolves play.
The leather ball broken.
Yeah, like, the Duke playing with a broken. One day, George's just not going to come back. I've absolutely had enough. But there's been 2 Wolves goals at Molineux in the league this season, and I've missed both of them. I'm absolutely fuming. I went down for a point on the Neves goal, and I went down for a point for the Pedence goal. So, if we're backs against our walls against the Man City, then I'm going to go down and watch what happens.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Neto, because, George, I felt like the fans were getting on his back a little bit, but then we're like, oh no, what are we doing? And I'll sing his name. Like, he just looks completely void of confidence. That chance he had in the first half, I think he had too much time to think about it, and that's probably why he dragged it wide. But he just looks fucked, doesn't he?
No, he's not. He's not what he was.
Professional opinion.
No, he's not what he was. I think he struggles to get that form pre his knee injury. For me personally, we've seen we've seen glimpses. Liverpool away, he was bright when he for 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so, and I think he's trying a little bit too hard now. I mean, that chance in the first half is completely dragged it, and even in the second half, there was a simple ball across the box with the Pedence on about the 50th minute mark, and he's hit it about 12 foot into the south bank, and that's where the groans have started. And you can just tell it's not right. It's just not clicking for him at the minute, and we're probably in a position with our injury crisis, if you want to call that, or mini crisis, that you got to persist with him. I mean, yes, there'll be clamours for Adama to start. Less clamours for Hwang, but I think you've got to persist with Neto out of just pure necessity, really, and hope it just clicks for him. I still think there was about 5 minutes later he did a step over and took it past Gineppo and whipped in a really good ball, and that seemed to spring him on a little bit, but it's just not clicking for him this season. And I don't know if that's because he's trying too hard or he just isn't at the level he was at the moment.
There was a chance in the second half where he's running down the right and he's like in a really good position and he tries to chop it back onto his left, and I can't help but feel if he was running down the left he probably would have gone past that player and managed to get a shot across the box. But do you think that's maybe the biggest root of the problem, Dave, that he's not suited to the system playing on the right hand side? I mean, he's a young player and he may be able to learn, but at the minute it's not clicking for him.
Yeah, but I think there were good moments to his game, and there were bad moments on Saturday. I'm still not a huge fan of him on the right, if I'm completely honest. I think you're right on the left hand side. He could be a bit more direct, can use his stronger foot. I think the chance in the first half, he picked up a great bit of space, and he's got to be getting it on target though. He didn't even test the goalkeeper. But the second half, I think he had that one, gets the ball down to the byline, absolutely dreadful cross, doesn't even come into play. And that's when I think fans started to moan. But then about 5-10 minutes later, like you said, beats his man, great cross into the box. I think it was Guedes, wasn't it? Just arriving quite late and almost beat Bazunu to the ball. So there were good spells and he looked bright. So, I think, like George said, I think we've just got to persevere with him. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take him out my FPL. I know Finn said this on his vlog as well. I'll take him out my fantasy Premier League, and he'll score the winner against Liverpool on Saturday. I'll do it just for us lot.
Do it, man. Do it. Well,
Yeah.
George, if you look at George Betmate too, which we'll bring up in a bit, George has gone. He's put his bollocks on the line. He reckons Wolves are gonna nick it. But Finn, I thought towards the end, Wolves rode their luck a little bit. Southampton obviously had the goal disallowed, which was, I still don't know what he's doing, but Che Adams hit the bar. It was a little bit squeaky bum time at the end.
Yeah, it was always going to be. I thought the left winger that came on as well, the new City Edozie, I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, really good.
So caused a lot of danger. I think, did they hit the crossbar as well? From memory.
Che
So
Adams.
it was always going. One that he didn't try an elbow in. So it was always going to be like, you have flashbacks, don't you, to the Newcastle one as well. I think even, was it Guedes or someone tried that same similar volley down in that left corner, and I thought it was going to fall to someone on the edge again, but thankfully not. But we don't do it easily. We've either lost by a goal, won by a goal, or drawn this season. There's never been like a relaxed end to a game. Well, this is our first win, wasn't it? But even like, we've always been pushing for a goal or backs against the wall in every game this season. They've all been tight. So it's always going to be, I'm looking forward to when we've been saying for about 4 years, we're going to smash someone and we can just relax for the last 10 minutes. But one day. I don't
think it's ever going to happen, but it's like you said, it was always going to be, if you're 1-0, it was always going to be squeaky bum time. Like it's just natural when you've been on the run of form that you've been on. But one thing I will mention, and we've given him stick on here before, and George made comments about his first touch, which I won't repeat, and we've all echoed the thoughts that we don't think he's great. But Hwang came on, didn't think he played too badly. I thought Adama did okay as well as an outlet, especially springing up. How that bloke jumps, I don't know how he does it, but Dave, fans in and around where you sat were booing Hwang, weren't they, when he came on?
Yeah, there were plenty of fans booing, and when I saw Hwang sort of warming up on his own to come on, I was like, what are we doing here? Adama obviously came on with him as well in the end, but and people know that listen to the podcast, I'm not his biggest fan. I put it on Twitter all throughout the towards the end of the window. I would have been happy for him to leave the club, but whilst he's representing Wolves on the pitch or putting his shirt, a shirt on, I will never ever boo him going on the pitch. Never. Might have grown if he misplaces a pass or gives away the ball, but I will never ever boo my own player unless it's Diego Costa getting sent off when we're chasing a game or something like that. No, but yeah, I would never boo. And again, that's something that I mentioned. I thought, cheer a player that you like, but if you don't like a player, just don't do anything. So yeah, the fact people were booing is a bit embarrassing. And then I think, like you said earlier with Neto, people started realising, so we just started singing a chant about him being on loan, although we signed him permanently. So
yeah, I think the fans though, like, the atmosphere weren't great, but there was quite elongated chant of Bruno Lage's Barmy Army, which I've not really heard for quite a while. I think the fans were really keen to try and get the team over the line, but George, it's not really what you want to hear, is it? I mean, what's your stance on booing players?
It's just wrong, isn't it? I think there's I think someone who puts the shirt on for Wolverhampton Wanderers, you've got to support them no matter what. I think, yes, we might not think his abilities at the level, or potentially not at the level, but there's one thing about Hwang which you can never discredit or even throw at him, is lack of effort. And even coming out with comments saying he wants to leave, or slandering the club, or going back to what we said the other week on the transfer podcast, like, Stephen Fletcher head's gone, Van La Parra with all this money shit. Like, he's never done anything like that. And like I say, effort and application is there with Hwang. Ability might not be, but I saw like people, like the thing I found really weird was like grown men on Twitter like saying, "Oh, I hold my hands up, I booed Hwang, please forgive me." And I'm like, just what's going on? Like, just like, A, why are you apologising on Twitter? And B, like, you should know better. Like, we've had some shite sides. Like, Hwang, yes, he fucked up for Newcastle, but we've had some real shite players, and Hwang is he's nowhere near the worst player I've seen in a Wolves shirt. So just get anyone who plays for Wolves, get behind them until they say something or act in a way that disrespects the club for me.
But I reckon these same fans would like it when Willy Bolly comes back to the club, will like clap him. Which, which I'm indifferent. I couldn't really give a fuck. He's not a Wolves player anymore. But it was finally nice to get a win, and it wasn't the only win at the weekend. So, as you know, there was a Betmate pot, and Jord again was the only member of Talking Wolves who took home a bit of cash. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it's £5.85. Finn was close, missed out marginally. Me and Dave I didn't have enough data to keep loading the table. We were right down the bottom. Jord, how are you doing it, mate? Like week in, week out, putting results out the hat.
I don't know. It's something that you just can't teach in it, like skill. Like it's just you're either born with it or you're not. And I think I've just got the knack of the game. I must have.
Yeah, you must
Experience.
Experience. Yeah.
Lots of.
I used to play the balls back in the 80s. So yeah, just experience of playing spot the ball and all that. It's just grown naturally.
Well, when we talk about your Betmate team for Liverpool versus Wolves, then you can talk us through why what the methodology is behind it. But yeah, it's finally so good to get a first win in the league. This show is brought to you by Green King, your home of pub sport. With over 900 sports pubs across the country, Green King is where the fans go, showing every broadcast game for Wolves.
Yeah, and if you download the Green King season ticket app, you can receive a free drink when you register and 10% off a great range of drinks 1 hour before, during and after any match.
That's right, Dave. So if you head to the App Store and search Season Ticket to download the app, our listeners of the show will also be able to get an additional £5 off drinks when spending £15 or more while using code TalkingWolves. Green King, it's where the fans go and it's your home of pub sport. So Wolves are back in action again this weekend. The games are coming thick and fast and it's a trip to Anfield. Finn, Liverpool are a little out of sorts at the minute, but it's still going to be a really tough test, isn't it?
Yeah, just like that Bournemouth narrative, this is the one where it's Liverpool are back. That's what I'm dreading anyway. I'm going to try and counteract it with like what Dave said. I'm going to sell Neto, captain Salah, which should mean Salah does nothing and Neto scores a hat-trick with the fantasy team. I'll do my part, but no, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. But to be fair, I've watched their last few games and they're not, I know this is all going to come back to bite, but they're really not looking that dangerous. They're not looking like Liverpool that just scares the life out of you. I saw things with like Salah being so much further out wide than you want him coming in and attacking and scaring people just like he did for that late goal, that late assist against us last season. So touch wood, they're not looking too threatening and a little bit vulnerable at the back, like I think we're seeing, and people have always took the mick out of like Trent's defending ability and even like Robertson being dropped for Simicast. Those sorts of doubts are really coming to the fore now. So our backers, our attack has been very weak, but I am sort of excited to see a proper good team. Like I know Spurs could probably be up there as well, but to see a team come at us, see what we can then do on the break, because Neto's always been better on the break. Adama if he's involved. So slightly excited, but yeah, it does feel like the one where it's like Liverpool are back to winning ways and with a comfortable 3-0 at Anfield. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully George that make things all right.
They're missing a few players, aren't they? They've and are missing a lot through injury. And I also think that the sale of Sadio Mane goes under the radar a lot because that front three together was phenomenal. So if you take a player of that caliber out of any side, they may struggle. Nunes hasn't has had a tough start. The headbutt doesn't really help. But Jord, is this a free hit for Wolves, or do you think that they can actually get something out of the game? I mean, how would you approach it? I know that Liverpool love to play that high line. There's always space in behind, and we could have those players with the abundance of pace we've got up front to exploit that.
Yeah, I feel like the game is set up for us a little bit, and I know that might be me being like an over-the-top Wolves fan and probably being very biased, but I think there's like two reasons for that. I think the midfield battle. I think, I've said it before, our midfield three stands up against any, I think, in European football. I think that they've got problems at the moment with Thiago, Henderson's injured. They're really lacking sort of fluidity in that midfield three. They've been playing Harvey Elliott, Carvalho, Fabinho, Milner's been getting gigs. And I really think like Nunes, Neves and Moutinho is a better midfield three than that thing. The other thing on that is they're playing Napoli away at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, and we've got them on the 3 o'clock. So it's the first game in the Champions League, so you'd imagine they're going to go strong. So I think they might rotate a few players. With they're literally playing European football every midweek, aren't they? For the 6 weeks off the bat, is it, or until the international break? And then again, so that's why I think like Robertson's been coming out of the team, and there's all this interchange with Liverpool. I think it's a really good time to play these big teams, even Man City the week after, because there will be some rotation. That's not me saying that we're going to get anything out of Man City or Liverpool, but it's probably the optimum time to play these teams because they will be rotating and they may lack a little bit of fluidity in those starting 11s.
Hopefully Traore might be involved as well, Boubacar. I know he's still trying to get a visa this week, so hopefully by Saturday that's sorted, because it's safe we are holding on to a draw or God forbid a lead, to bring someone on such as him with the attributes that he got may just see us over the line. But Dave, how would you approach the game? George has said there, like, it's a good time to play these teams. We've seen the likes of Newcastle at St James's almost putting down a real blueprint how to take the game to these kind of teams. How are you feeling going into this?
Yeah, and like George said, with it being the late one on Wednesday for them, and then playing 3 p.m. on Saturday, I can already picture Jurgen Klopp moaning about their schedule. So it's looking good, and I think if we can almost approach this game and play out this game in a similar way to when we played Tottenham, like George said, first half, I thought we dominated that game. We just got to put the ball in the back of the net. Whether Raul is going to be fit, whether we start Guedes or /Pedence up top, whether the big man Diego Costa comes in and starts up top, it'll be really intriguing and interesting to see. And I think you make a good point there about Boubacar Traore as well. If he gets into England in the next day or two, gets his visa sorted, trains with the team a couple of times, and he can come on the pitch after 60, 70 minutes, he's going to add some valuable energy to the team, because we know what Liverpool are like. They could play crap for 60 minutes, but throughout the whole 90, they're going to have enough energy to cause a real issue for Wolves. So yeah, it is a good time, and spirits are better. I'm not going to say they're high at Wolves, but spirits are better, morale is better, and if we can get a point or a couple of points from these next two games, I think that'd be fantastic. But it's that bad, I suppose, for Liverpool as well. If we beat them on Saturday, we go level on points with them, and we're talking about how bad a start to the season it's been for us as well. So
I know. I mean, do you not feel daft like calling for Bruno's head with those kind of stats?
No, but I mean, you look at there's some big teams. Klopp. Do you think he could be in trouble? If he doesn't start getting some wins, who knows?
Nah, he's untouchable. He's absolutely untouchable. But let's talk about the Betmate pot. So this week it's £3 to enter for your chance to win £300. Now it is a private pot this week, so you won't be able to find it on the homepage. But if you do, go to the bottom and click join, you'll be able to put the code in. The code is LIV-WOL, LIVWOL, and it's a joint pot with the Cop TV, who's Alex, who's a friend of Talking Wolves, and also Redmen TV. So, let's start with my team first before we go on to the masterclass that is George. So I've gone very, very Liverpool heavy. I've gone for Alisson, Van Dijk, Trent, Nunes, Harvey Elliott, Diaz, and Salah. I've kind of I just think Liverpool will turn up and put in a real good performance against us because it's us. So that's why I've gone Liverpool heavy. Dave, yours is quite similar, isn't it?
Yeah, I've gone a similar sort of thing. I think I've gone with Alisson in goal. I've gone with the Liverpool back two of Trent and Van Dijk.
Virgil,
Neves and Nunes. Actually, I'm going with double Wolves pivot.
Double pivot.
And,
what a twat.
Luis Diaz and Mo Salah up top. So, yeah.
Finn, quite close last week. Talk me through yours.
Yeah, it may change. I've got Robertson in there instead of Van Dijk. Same back three as you got, apart from Robertson, apart from Van Dijk. That could change. Obviously, I didn't think about the Champions League games. So there may be some rotation, but luckily we've got up until 5 minutes before kickoff to change it. I've gone Fabinho and Nunes just because if we are trying to play that counter-attacking ball, I thought if he can intercept a few, no, obviously I don't want him to, but there's a few points is the sort of return for that. And I've gone Nunes and Salah, Salah captain. So yeah, Nunes is my one Wolves one in there. But to be honest, I want George to win because it means we're going to have had a very good day. So take it away, sir.
George, mate, talk me through this. When you sent this in the chat earlier to send over to Betmate boys, I said I hope Jordan realises that Liverpool playing red because I saw that and I was like, what on earth has gone on here? Jordan, talk us for the team and why you picked it because my head fell off.
Right, so I've been in the sun all day on a charity golf day, so I was probably a little bit dehydrated, and I was in a bit of a rush to send it over. But this is how
I
you
could
win.
tell. It's your
Oh,
fucking
no,
eyes
yeah,
closed.
literally, my cheeks are roasting. Honest to God.
Which ones?
So yeah, for me, it's what I said. I've just got a weird feeling about Wolves. So if you do that, it's best to go against the grain because everyone else will be picking a lot of Liverpool players, and if Wolves win 1-0, I'll be getting the big pot definitely. So I've gone with Saar in goal, Collins and Kilman, Nesta and Maldini. Then I've got Nunes captain, Harvey Elliott. And then I've gone really against the grain because I've been saying how bad they've been since the start of the season, but I've gone Pedro Neto and Raul Jimenez. But that could all change until 5 minutes before kickoff. So, yeah, we'll see.
It'll be Neto and Diego Costa, mate.
Well, the beauty of this is that you can change your team up until 5 minutes before kickoff. So once the team's announced and you've seen that Costa's actually starting up front, then, would you be tempted to change it, Jordan?
Well, if Jimenez isn't starting, I think if you're going this way, it'd have to be Jimenez or Guedes. I think is a striker on the game as well, isn't he? I think against the midfielder. So you'd have to just have a look at that. But if Diego Costa somehow starts, then I'll have to stick him in just to go with his narrative, I think.
Well, let's see how we get on. Good luck to all of us. Hopefully we can finish above Redmen TV and Cop TV. To join its private pot, use code LIV-WOL, LIVWOL, and it's £3 in for your chance to win £300. Of course, if you are new to the game, use our link in the description down below. And when you sign up and place a cash stake on a bet, you'll get £5 in free bets. Of course, be gamble aware. Right, the talking point that's on everybody's lips is Diego Costa to Wolves. I would have been really excited if it was a couple of years ago, Dave, but it stinks of desperation, but it's probably the best option we can go for, really, can't it?
Yeah, it's crazy that it's come round, and I actually searched it. We've actually been linked with him a fair bit prior to this summer. I think it was probably coming up to 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, the winter window. We were quite heavily linked with him. And I think everyone was sort of joking when we saw the news about Sasa's injury, and we were talking about free agents, and then it just all of a sudden came out of the blue. David Ornstein saying that he's coming over to the UK for Wolves to have a look at him. I was like, what? So yeah, a strong part of me thinks he's past it. He's not going to be good enough. But then there is still a small part of me thinking I cannot wait to see how this goes because we know he's a shit house. We know he's horrible. And I just want to see how it goes. I thought he was going to be in a ridiculously bad physical shape. I've seen him. It's funny how as soon as the news story came out, by the way, he put on his Instagram story that he was in the gym and then posted a story of him like all sweaty. But he still looks a bit wham, He still looks like he's got the muscles on him. So I'm intrigued to see how he gets on. I think he's going to sign. We thought it was going to be a trial, but I think Wednesday we might have some good news or bad news, depends if you like him.
He was sweaty, but I still think he was still in someone's kitchen from 3 days before, talking about why the earth is flat. I don't think he was. I don't think he was. Don't think he was in the gym. Finn, how are you feeling about this? I think he's going to be absolute dog shit, but it's going to be funny, isn't it? Like, why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
Yeah, I think you and Dave summed it up perfectly there. It's like the devil and the angel, isn't it? Like in The Simpsons, where you just got that devil going, no, but it'll be fun, won't it? It will be fun. Yeah, I think, to be fair, I remember when he came to Molineux in that FA Cup game when we'd just beaten Liverpool and then we drew Chelsea, and seeing him in the flesh, I thought, wow, what a striker. But I've just Googled it then, and that was 2017. So it's a long time ago. It's been well publicised since he's left Chelsea. It's been more yellow cards than goals. And he's been released from a Brazilian club. So you have realistically got to ask questions of why, basically. But it's desperation. He clearly wasn't first choice, but he's the only option we've got now. I think it's him or Vidra that's been released from Burnley. And
fucking hell.
I think the entertainment factor there, it's way more exciting, isn't it? It probably, realistically, this has got an 85% chance of going horribly wrong, but I think it's a sign that the fans won't mind at all, because it could be really fun. And if he does get sent off, you could see him making his debut against Chelsea maybe in a few weeks, getting sent off. It's just like we've said, the Bournemouth narrative, this Liverpool narrative. There's narratives there, and it's probably going to exactly like that. But yeah, that 10%, 15% chance of it going fantastically well. I'm all for it.
George, if anything, it's going to be entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think if anything, whether the ability is still there or not, I think it's going to lift Molineux, because I think it's universally going to be accepted. And again, people are like, get him in, and it's the same narrative as Belotti. Oh, Diego Costa was mint in the Premier League 5 years ago. Belotti, get him in. Like, he was good 3 years ago before his ACL with Torino. Like, I'm not expecting a lot, but the one thing I do think is it will get Molineux rocking, and I generally think there's probably more chance of him getting more red cards than goals. I think requesting that would take a hammering on it, because but same as Finn, like that 15% of me is just like, I just hope he comes and just gets 12 this year. Just get
which bit of you is a 15%, Jordan?
Are they going well? To be honest with you, I think about that then as well. No, I think it will be on the football pitch a bit of a disaster, but I do think it'll help the fan. I do think it'll help the stadium for a few weeks anyway, and get the atmosphere going.
VAR, by the way, is not going to work well for him, because he was
exactly
VAR was a thing.
I spent all of last night. I don't know whether you lot saw on my Be Real, just watching Diego Costa clips with one of my mates who was sat next to me, and he said that about halfway through we were loving it, and he goes, "This was all pre-VAR, wasn't it?" And we were like, oh shit, yeah, it was. So it would have been another 7-8 red cards, but yeah, it's a tricky one.
I mean, his goal record the past few years has been awful, though, hasn't it? I mean, he struggled when he went back to Atletico after Chelsea, but like Finn said, Vidra maybe, but there's literally no other players. I'm surprised there's been no links to Ilicic, who was at Atalanta. I know he's not a striker, but he's played just off the striker.
He's had issues off the pitch, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think depression, wasn't it?
99 problems, and a woman is one, yeah.
Yeah, mental health problems. So depression due to COVID-19 pandemic. And how you feel, fucking hell.
And it was his girlfriend, wasn't it?
His girlfriend cheated on him. I think his wife or something.
Found the Mr. knobbing his missus.
Really?
That's a loose women now. This is.
Yeah, he quit, didn't he? And then came back. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably one of the worst things you could ever witness, isn't it? But. But if Costa comes back and he's fit, which you can't guarantee, and he might not even pass a medical, we don't know. Does he start over Raul, Dave, or what happens? Or what is he going to be like the last 10 minutes? You just bring him on and think, you know what, just throw enough shit at the wall. Hopefully it'll stick somewhere.
I don't think he starts ahead. I don't think he starts ahead of Raul, and I think everyone knows. This guy hasn't played a football match for nearly 9 months, a competitive football match. So
I actually can't believe he's signing him. He's just not.
he might be fit, and his stamina might be okay, but obviously his match sharpness isn't going to be there. And I'm not expecting Bruno Lage to chuck him in an under-21s game, to get his sharpness up. But I think it will take time. But it completely depends, because if Raul is still got this random chronic fatigue that Bruno's on about, or got this groin injury again, then I think you've got to start him. Even if you're just giving him 50, 60 minutes, you've got to start him even at Anfield, because he'll give Virgil van Dijk a hell of a time.
Yeah, he's always going to be aggressive, and I don't know, he's always been so strong, and I don't think that's necessarily going to have been lost on him. He's not like 50 odd; he's still like 33. So, if anything, and it's a word that comes up quite a lot on his podcast, Finn, he's going to be hopefully a bit of a backboard.
Yeah. We've signed a few backboards this summer now. But yeah, another one. And yeah, it is that when you doubt that maybe some of the athleticism or the physical side has gone, we just at minimum, need a backboard, and as you say, it can be that. I'm the same as you. I'm just like, is this happening? It appears to be. I don't know what more do we say.
You know what?
It's going to be so weird if I see Diego Costa starts Wolves at Anfield. When will we?
Yeah, it's it's getting like worldwide coverage as well, which is like mad at the minute. And if anything,
for the
Finn,
vlogs,
it could
yeah.
be a little bit like on Ted Lasso with Roy Kent. It's like just gets the rest of the dressing room, like George said as well. People are saying, oh, it might upset the dressing room. But at the same time, this is a guy that's a serial winner. He's won so many trophies. He won't take no shit. He's got experience. And we're moaning about lack of experience in the dressing room. This is something completely different. And it could genuinely give us a real G up.
Yeah, against the big teams as well. I can't remember who it was, but was it Leeds had that result against Chelsea recently, and Marsh was on about I think it was a Tifo video. They were analysing that Leeds just make things chaos. Like City, Liverpool, they want games to go a certain way. Maybe, oh my God, you see that?
Oh,
Dave?
You see that lightning outside there?
Yeah.
Wow,
Oh my God. One for the audio listeners there. But no, yeah, it's I think he could bring that if Raul starts and we need a game to just go hectic. That's what you want. You want people to get rattled, like you say, Van Dijk. He wants the nice, comfortable game. He's not going to get it. Like the big teams aren't going to get it. So it could be fun. But again, it's probably going to go wrong.
Yeah. I just can't believe it's going to happen. I really can't believe it's happening. Like 2 or 3 years ago, you'd be buzzing, wouldn't you? But I remember being when we were in the Championship, the promotion winning season, and I think Costa was a little out of favour at Chelsea. He'd done something daft or whatnot, and these two blokes were sat behind me and said, "Would you take Diego Costa down the Wolves?" And this was in the Championship, and they both agreed that his attitude would be a big problem, and he probably wouldn't fit in at Wolves in the Championship. So it looks like they're finally going to see whether that's true. Obviously not in the Championship, but just one of those that a pinch me moment, but not a pinch me like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Like pinch me like, what on earth is going on? But let's see. Hopefully he passes his medical and he's involved on Saturday, but I don't think he'll be involved from the start. Right, lads, let's move on to the questions before we bring the podcast to a halt. So Kieran Munn has followed on with our topic of debate. Will Diego Costa end with more goals or cards come the end of the season? Dave?
I think cards is probably a safe bet. If any bookmakers want to put that, that'd be a good bet. I think they make a lot of money on that, to be fair.
Yeah. Finn?
Yeah, you could do it like more booking points or shots on target or something, or more shots or something like that. Yeah, you could. There's loads you could do. But no, probably yellow cards, to be honest.
George, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go with he's going to get 12 goals. So let's just
really.
I'm going with
15%.
Literally, I've gone heavy with Wolves to beat Liverpool. I'm just getting both bollocks on the table. Yeah, I reckon he'll get 12 goals.
For those listening on Spotify, he hasn't actually got his bollocks on the table. As a Sahota's asked, is there one player in the league you'd like Diego Costa to clatter more than anyone else? Dave?
It's getting violent now. I'm a nice guy. I don't really have any players that I hate too much in the league.
Will Zaha?
I've warmed to Zaha recently,
Am they? After writing 4-4-2.
Maybe someone like John Joe Shelby, someone like that. Big racist.
Finn? I mean,
I don't know.
That's been proven. It's not allegedly. It's out there, so we say.
Yeah. Benjamin Mendy, then, if we're going
down
the
calling Finn a racist.
We can't talk about Mendy. We can't talk about Mendy.
What are you calling Finn the racist then, to be honest?
Yeah, proven.
Finn's got a track record.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's realistically, it's going to be a centre half, isn't it? So I'm trying to think of one that I hate, and they're not normally hateable people, are they?
Mings?
I don't know. Come back to me, even though you literally told me to think of one.
I know. I sent, agenda went out about 3:00 this afternoon, but
yeah, just need 2 more minutes.
Okay, mate, no worries. George?
Yeah, more Mings, because you just know if you just come up against him, it's like that Mings versus Latam thing, isn't it? You know, Mings are going to have a bit of a tug and a pull and whatever.
I bet he's what?
What do you mean by that?
I beg your pardon.
Haaland as well. He gave Haaland a kick on Sunday, and yeah, it'd be great just to see Diego Costa just like put a reducer on him, to be honest with you, because he's a bit of a shithouse Mings. I don't necessarily mind him when he's been in, when he actually comes across quite well on interviews and stuff, but just not a player I like on the pitch.
Torren Mings stamped on Oliveira's face, didn't he?
That was horrific.
Yeah.
That was
stitches down the side of his head. That's what he did to Ibrahimovic as well, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, stamped on too.
I thought that stamp on Oliveira it looked like he meant that. But Finn, had a couple of minutes now. Any ideas?
Gibbs White. No.
Oh yes, right there.
No, I can't think of any better. To be fair, it would be quite funny.
Willy Bolly.
Willy Bolly, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be a good battle. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Andy Hipkiss has asked opinions on changing to a back four and conceding the least league goals all season. Dave?
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Yeah, extremely happy. Just got to start. We are getting more players forward. We're having a little bit more possession. Well, we just got to start sticking the ball in the back of the net a little bit more. But it feels like it's coming. I think it's. I'm really happy with the change. So yeah, just got to, like I said, start scoring some goals.
Finn?
As I said before, it has been quite a favourable start fixtures wise. Dave, I'd evacuate, mate. There's lightning going off all over the place. It's probably going to change soon, but I get like looking at, sorry to go back to FPL, but I was looking, right, Wolves attackers defence is going to be useless this year. I really didn't think we'd have this start regardless of the fixtures. So yeah, I thought there'd be more teething problems and there hasn't been really. So really, really promising. And I didn't expect it. It's impressive.
Jordan, I bet you feel really smug, don't you? Because you wanted Collins in. You earmarked him as a potential signing. Now he's come in and looking quite the purchase.
Yeah, it was Nathan Collins and Josh Brownhill. Those are the two that I sort of earmarked. And you know what, Brownhill, he started quite well for Burnley as well. But I just thought Collins, when I watched him in the limited game, like the game time he had, I just thought he was so composed and good on the ball. But I liked him because he played for Stoke, didn't he, against us in the Carabao Cup as well when Fabio started, when they beat us. And I thought even that game he was really, really good. So he's just someone I've had like my eye on for a little bit in terms of his career and sort of seeing where he goes. So yeah, I think him and Kilman just complement each other so well. And I think, was it Wolves tweeted out today that they've got 100% aerial?
Heading accuracy.
That was against Southampton. Aerial Jules won. Aerial Jules won
100%, which is brilliant. And that's another thing why I quite like us against Liverpool is if they're playing Nunes, they've already shown with Mitrovic they're quite like a physical big guy up against them. So yeah, again, I think another thing where I feel quite confident in the back two.
I think Collins can really get into Nunes as well. I remember the game on Saturday. What Southampton player was moaning, like having a push and a shove in the box, and like Collins was kind of up to him and just like laughed in his face, like absolutely like proper belly laughing in his face, and you could see the Southampton player was like he just proper winding him up, and you've seen obviously Nunes his temperament. Hopefully send him in for an early shower. Johnny Quinton has asked, who is our preference for the fullback positions? It's difficult. I think if Johnny wouldn't have had such a good second half, it would have been Semedo and Ait-Nouri, but he did have a better second half, didn't he, Dave? What's your preference?
It's difficult. I think all three have shown good things. Johnny and Ait-Nouri obviously played a little bit more, have also shown sort of bad signs this season. I think you're right. Johnny's second half was phenomenal. It's just, I remember everything was going right for him. I said, you know what, he should just have a dig from like 30 yards.
Oh, it was close, wasn't it?
Like 30 seconds after he had that shot, I was like, oh my God. But I think on paper at the moment, I think Semedo and Johnny is probably your best two. But Ait-Nouri is a fantastic option to still have. And I think games like Saturday, I thought Ait-Nouri had a good game as well. So I think if Semedo's fit, I'd probably go Johnny and Semedo against Liverpool. But Ait-Nouri is still a great option to have.
Finn?
Yeah, I've got that recency bias with Johnny, I think, because he had been the weakest so far.
Oh, it's been awful.
But he was great in the second half. I have equally got flashbacks to when Vinagre was unbelievable against Trent, and I think our closest thing to that is Ait-Nouri. Whether that's an avenue we could go down, but Semedo hasn't really put a foot wrong in the limited time I've seen him, so I think he's nailed for my right back. I think I'd probably go Ait-Nouri for this Liverpool game, but overall, yeah, I think Johnny's got a strong case to start on the left.
My final question from Neto the GOAT, and he keeps asking this. He asked it on the deadline day live stream. Will Matt Cooper go on Come Dine with me? No, I don't really know where this. I don't know where this might kicking off in Techno, where Dave is. Thunder and lightning everywhere. I don't know where this has come from, but I wouldn't be adverse to going on.
Remember we were talking about Talking Walls could dine with me, like during COVID.
Yeah, we were going to do one at yours, weren't we? We were going to come do a come down with me, but Never happened. I mean, if anyone's interested in talking Wolf can dine with me, let us know in the comments down below and we'll do one. Jordan, are you a decent cook?
Limited cook. Like I do what I do well, but I'll be honest with you, my missus takes over in the kitchen and she's
Where else would you take over, Jordan? Come on, mate.
I ain't gonna sound a podcast because I'm sure a brother and family members watch this, so I ain't getting myself in trouble.
Good lad. Very diplomatic. Never a true word spoken from a bloke who's under the thumb. Finn, can you cook? You can't cook, can you?
I'm the same, but I'm even more limited probably than what George's going to say. I've got 3 or 4 things, and I'm a man that doesn't like much change in life. I'm quite happy. Same meals every week, every bagel for breakfast every morning. I'm quite happy with it. Probably need to be a bit more adventurous.
What are your go-to dishes, Finn?
Chicken teriyaki. But chicken teriyaki. Now I've learned that one. The sticky rice can sometimes be tricky.
How'd you get the rice sticky?
Oh my word!
How'd you do? No, because do you use a rice cooker or?
You don't want to know Finn's flipping way to get that sticky.
Chef special sauce. Yeah, how'd you get the rice?
Yeah,
sticky?
I can only have it once a week because I've made enough of it. No, but I didn't buy the pot, but it's quite long. And it's as the sushi rice.
Dave, what's your go-to meal?
Sushi rice, if anyone's going for it.
My go-to meal is probably beans on toast because I can't cook for shit.
Cheese on top, superb.
I love cooking. I find it so rewarding.
Well, I've never had to be honest. I think when I move into my house in 10 years' time, like you jokes about, maybe in 10 years' time, I think we could have a different conversation. But no, I like. If I follow the recipe, I can cook enchiladas. That's a nice little one. That's about it. I can't do nothing unless I've got a recipe. I can't do anything.
George, what's your go-to dish or dishes? I know this is like what people want to know about. It's the end of the podcast. But...
I'll be honest with you. My sort of special at the moment is like roast pork. Roast pork with sea salt on the top of it, really nice crackling.
Get the crackling up. Yeah.
Crackling up. So put it in the oven, even cook it in gravy, and then remove the joint and then finish it off in the air fryer. So it's still tender, but then it crisps it on top. So the crackling's lovely.
How big's your air fryer?
I've got a Ninja. So I've got 2 little components, yeah.
They are good though, aren't they? Them I've only got a little tower one. I don't really use my oven anymore. I'll just use the air fryer.
No, I'm not going to be like Boris and say get an air fryer. It's going to save you electricity bills, but it does help. It actually has helped. I won't lie.
So apart from pork joints, what else can you roll? Just cook.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Traditionally, if you want like a quick one, I do a very good cheese on toast as well with a bit of sauce. That's good though. Like if you do it well.
With your cheese on toast, is it? And I will end the podcast in a minute, but like this is great chat. Grated or sliced cheese, and what cheese?
Grated. Cathedral City.
Mature cheddar.
Big man thing.
Yeah.
Mature. And Worcester sauce on the top. Is that what before it's grilled or after?
So what I do is get it out.
And how about the toast?
So many innuendos on this podcast tonight. Get it out the grill. And then just do the salt bay, just sprinkle it on out the thing, and then put it back in for like another 60 seconds. So it's sort of marinades it a little bit.
Nice. Have you ever had it with chives? That's nice as well.
No, I never had it.
Chives on top. Chives are excellent. I think it's a good time to end the podcast. I've enjoyed the last 5 minutes. Go on then, Finn. Go on, mate.
If we're talking cheddar cheese, sorry, I've just got a shout out. There's this one my mum found in Home Bargain called Collier's. Try it. Trust me, it's I was a Cathedral City boy, but now Collier's cheddar cheese.
City boy.
Unbelievable. It's in Home Bargains. I don't think it's anywhere else, but it's I was going to say creamy, but you'd all have a field day with that.
I do like a bit of cheese. I had a cheese board after the pub the other night, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Can I do it in Asda? Right, we're going to get that on the shopping list. It better be good, Finn.
Oh, mate.
Is it a cheddar?
Well,
what are we talking about here? Why are we talking about this on the podcast?
This is good.
This is the end. Like the last 10 minutes, just like general chit chat. If Colliers want to reach out to some partnerships as well, all your mates are on college cheese. There's a lot of young lads have problems like that, mate. It's a bit of an epidemic. But let's
It's a gateway cheese.
It is a gateway cheese. Before you know it, mate, you're sniffing Stilton at 7 a.m. So.
Right now we end it.
Yeah, let's end the podcast. Don't forget that the Betmate pot code LIV-WOL to join. Dave, where can people find you should they wish?
It's Dave as a party on Twitter and on Instagram.
Finn?
Finn is FINERRZ, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Home Bargains Cheese Aisles.
Yeah, Collier's cheese. If you want to reach out and send us some samples, we'll happily try them on the pod. George,
Please.
where can people find you should they wish to follow you?
So on Twitter, George was 7 or Friends Reunited Class of 76.
Class of 6. Just a quick note, Dave. Instagram, private or public?
We're public at the minute.
Public. It's I don't know. You dip in and out, don't you? I've been private now for quite a while, but I've got nothing to hide. Unlike some of us, I'm only messing before people start talking. I am M Cooper Writes on Twitter, Matt Cooper Bites on YouTube. We are at Talking Wolves across all socials. Let us know what you thought about the podcast in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe if you know. Until next time, take care.